for us, what we've done is we make patterns with a purpose. And so when we come out and we release a pattern, we try to have that have at least a 4 to 5 year lifespan where we're able to market. And how we see that is the first year it comes into the market, it's just all about awareness. This is out there. This is great. You don't see a whole lot of growth. By year 2, you start seeing that bell curve peak. And then by year 3, it's peaked. And then you start having the downfall. But by then, we're kind of already building the second stage, and then you release. So you're always hitting that bell curve of pattern releases. So,
welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Andrew Murray, Senior Director of Pattern and Product Development at Realtree. Andrew, how are you this morning?
Good to be here. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. I appreciate you spending some time with us on Business Ninjas. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and about Realtree.
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Andrew Murray. I've been here at Realtree now for 12 years. Going on 13 years. I started off with the company as the creative director.
Okay.
And then during COVID, the company and leadership came to me wanting to open up a new department to, focus on some new areas of opportunity and growth, and wanted me to head those areas on. So that's why my title's a little all over the place. And it kind of goes with our business model, and makes a little bit more sense when you know the structure of the company.
Excellent. And please tell everyone about Realtree and what you do there.
Yeah, Realtree's been the world's leading branded camouflage company since 1986. We've been around for going on almost 40 years as of next year, getting ready to celebrate our anniversary, which is fun. We design camouflage patterns for the hunting community and different pursuits that entails, but it's grown to be so much more than that. And we do, we're a branded licensing camo company that licenses to over 2,000 different companies that want to use our patterns on their products. And it goes from everything from we call cradle to the grave, and everything in between, diapers to literally coffins. We've had those done, but it's, lifestyle apparel and hunting apparel, technical gear, and just everything you can kind of think of.
So if you have to hide your infant in the woods, you got them covered.
Yeah. One of the fun things we do is each year for Easter is like create little camo Easter eggs. Like, hey kids, go find them.
Oh God, that's got to be hard.
Yeah, that's pretty tough.
All right, well, I know we've spoken previously. Please tell the audience about the origin story of Realtree, because it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, so the owner and lead designer and CEO of the company, Bill Jordan, and it is pronounced Jordan, not Jordan, even though that's a uniquely Columbus, Georgia, Southern thing. But in 1984, he was, trying to kickstart some different things, and he was working for his dad at a boat company, but his passion was always for the hunting and outdoor and fishing life. And he saw that, for the most part, the only garments and camouflage patterns that people had to use and wear were the old military camo patterns from Vietnam and other eras. And he started looking at those camo patterns, and he looked at the woods, and they go, these two do not align. So he decided he was visiting his mom one day, and out on the front porch, he decided to sketch an old white oak tree that's in front of his mom's yard to this day here in Columbus, Georgia. And he sketched it, drew it out, and then he decided to take that and try to get it printed onto fabric. And that was in 84. And then 85, he got a print done, and then he went to his first SHOT Show in 1986, and he didn't have the money to pay for the booth. And I told you before, he kind of was running around trying to hide from the authorities because he was trying to make some sales so he could pay for his spot there. And luckily it worked out for him. He met, the buyer of Walmart, and who connected him to the guys at Walls, who connected him to, fabric suppliers. And they all kind of piecemealed it together where he was going to become the licensee and the designer of the pattern. And they loved the pattern so much that he did. And the first pattern was called Realtree, and it was to match and look like a real tree. And that just kind of spiraled and became this royalty licensee based company, which he had no thought or desire of doing in the beginning. He thought he was going to make the patterns, make the clothes, and sell them just like any regular clothing brand or clothing manufacturer. And it kind of spun off into becoming a licensing deal with all these different partners that have been around and still are partners today, which is a pretty unique story.
Hey, that's a fabulous fake it till you make it story. Showing up at an exposition where you haven't paid for the booth and just running the booth like you're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
what percentage of your business is licensing versus direct to market, direct to consumers?
Probably right now, don't have the exact numbers on that, but it's probably 90-10 on that. Yeah.
Okay,
It's probably
so
90% licensing for sure. We really didn't do and haven't done direct to consumer manufacturing or product development ourselves until about 3 years ago when I came into this role, this new role. So everything prior to that, we never made anything our own. We just did licensing. And really, Realtree, what it's become, and Bill saw the idea of this in the 90s, was not only to make a camo pattern, but you had to market the camo pattern. So Realtree really is a licensing factor, but it's also a marketing company. So what we've done is, hey, if you take our patterns and our brand on, then we're going to help you go to market, push it, and do all these things. And he was the first and only hunting company that I am aware of that was on ESPN in the 90s, and then it turned into TNT. And he got on with the NASCAR guys and people like Dale Earnhardt, and he saw how having that marketing power and things like sports athletes like Chipper Jones from the Atlanta Braves that he's good friends with, and how they can help get in reach into different areas and different consumers. And it was the longest running, most successful outdoor television show on Outdoor and Sportsman's Channel for the longest time. And then he created and started doing these things called Monster Bucks, these DVDs, which at first Walmart asked for a catalog inside their stores. And so he said, hey, I'll do the catalogs if I can, give a DVD away with each catalog. And so he started doing those. And when his whole idea was, if they watch the DVD and they have the catalog, they can see what was in the DVD and they can buy it. Well, he was making those things. The catalogs for free to sell the DVDs for a very small price. And he figured out a way at that time in the 90s when creating DVDs and doing the closed captioning was like such a high price. He was able to scale that down to bare minimum margins and was able to pump out millions and millions of these DVDs. And then they just caught on like fire. And he was able to, again, it was a marketing tool that really is what made the company so successful.
Hey, he had a great idea and he continued to push the rock up the hill. I see your footprint, right? You've got 6 figures worth of followers on YouTube. They're contributing tons of content for you because they're so excited about your products and love using them. And that sells the product right there. People happy using it's a great story for me on all sides. Find a niche, create a product, market it, create a community that wants to elevate the product to each other. That's kind of the answer, right? On the B2B side, what sort of businesses do you work best with? I assume we're talking about apparel and shoes and all that kind of stuff. Who are you working with?
We've worked with basically all the major brands out there, so everybody from Under Armour, when they came in a few years ago, they got into the hunting space and we kind of collaborated together, and they dominated that space for a few years before deciding to try different venues and avenues. We've worked with, currently still working with Nike on the lifestyle play, doing the Air Jordans. So I get so you just saying the one way. But yeah, which is fun to see your name and your in the products and the camo patterns that we design, products like that, and even companies like Columbia. But those are, those are big names, but they're not necessarily like our biggest partners in terms of what we do on a day-to-day basis. The market and just the retail space and the industry in itself has shifted so much over the last few years. Private label brands inside of retail stores have really grown and almost become as big of a name as private label brands themselves. So places like Academy, Walmart, Shields, those are the big retail spaces, on top of a bunch of independents that we work with really well, that make a lot more sense to the core market that we have. And then we have a lot of those, again, lifestyle brands like Supreme, the streetwear brand, which are fun to do these exclusive one-off type of things with, every year. But those are more fun. Hey, put them in the portfolio. Those are fun projects more so than, dollar generating, projects.
Got you. Now, I mean, it sounds like you guys own the market. Do you have competition in this space?
Yeah, there is. And the last few years, really probably last 6 years, it's gotten a lot more tight, a lot more convoluted and saturated in that space. Our what we consider, so Realtree and how we define us is we are a stick and limb, realistic, photorealistic camouflage. There's only two other real significant brands that do something similar to how we do it. One of them kind of started around the same time that we got started, so we kind of grown up in the space together. So yeah, we don't necessarily see them as, I mean, everybody sees everybody as competition, but not really seeing that as competition as much as they're another flavor to our, ice cream type of thing. And how we see it is if they're doing well, then we're doing well. And it makes the competition and having options makes the industry healthy, so it's kind of how we look at it.
Hey, they say rising tides lift all boats, right?
Yeah.
Try to grasp the magnitude. How many unique patterns do you produce at the moment?
Right now we've done 54, I think, is in our library. So there's a lot of other brands that, pump out what we call abstract patterns or, generic camouflage, which are the ones that are probably the most commonplace for your audience. Those are going to be your military type of patterns that are blobby and don't really have much. Those are a lot easier to create, mainly because you have color separation. And I could really nerd out on the process of the patterns and what makes us unique and how it happens. The reason why there's only 3 companies is because to do a photorealistic pattern and translate that onto fabrics and substrates is very difficult, to make it look right and hold QC. So for us, what we've done is we make patterns with a purpose. And so when we come out and we release a pattern, we try to have that have at least a 4 to 5 year lifespan where we're able to market. And how we see that is the first year it comes into the market, it's just all about awareness. This is out there. This is great. You don't see a whole lot of growth. By year 2, you start seeing that bell curve peak. And then by year 3, it's peaked. And then you start having the downfall. But by then, we're kind of already building the second stage, and then you release. So you're always hitting that bell curve of pattern releases. So, but the market has shifted over the last 4 years. And so we've ramped up, pattern development and processes. And, a lot more people are wanting something different versus, it's a struggle in our industry of there's a copycat type of mentality. And, a lot of times it makes people's job a little easier when instead of innovating a new product, you just slap a new color on it or a new camo pattern on it. And so, having that color change or the pattern change allows those products to have longer life shelves and lifespans, and helps with sales and stuff. So the demand to churn patterns around a lot quicker is skyrocketed.
You mentioned the change is about 4 years old, which kind of, coincides with the pandemic. Was that I mean, how did that affect your business? Did people have more time to be hunting and be out in the woods? And was that actually a busy time for you guys?
Yeah, so I think, I still scratch my head when I look at the pandemic and what people who forecasted or in jobs of forecasting kind of saw and thought and didn't think was going to happen. It's like you said, it seems to be common, logic or like common sense. Like you make sure no one can go to work and the only place you can be is outdoors. You would think, hey, outdoor spaces, fishing, hunting is going to skyrocket. Well, it did. We saw a huge resurgence and especially in 21, 22 in participation in outdoor activities. And so it caught a lot of people on their heels, especially with China closing down and a lot of exports and imports coming from there and all the ports. So the demand was super high, but able to fill that became really hard to do. And so when everybody saw that happening, there was this mentality of I don't know why there's this mentality of people thinking, hey, it's going to be like this from here on out. And so the next year and or two, everybody overly compensated, so they overstocked, they did, which instead of thinking it was going to level out or plane out back to where it was. So now then you kind of have the reversed effect of all of a sudden too much stuff was in the marketplace and it hurt the market, as much as the 21, 22 years helped the market really.
Hey, I guess that makes sense. You have a supply chain crisis. You never want to have that happen again. So you overdo it in the other direction. And then there's a correction or, you find an equilibrium at some point. That makes sense. Let's switch gears for a second. Tell me what role content has played in the growth of your business. Again, you guys have had a presence on television. Your users are posting shorts and reels to your YouTube channel all the time. Tell me how it's helped you grow your business.
Honestly, raw content. So mainly we've always kind of supported it and asked for it since the beginning of social media. So like we really kind of dug in deep, especially with Facebook and Instagram in the early days when it was available to, companies, so 2010. And we've always asked for submissions and wanted to see, interact and be a part of our overall daily consumer and their lives, and we'll have them feel like they have some ownership in the company as well. So raw content like that becomes useful. I will say it's not as strong of a strategic tool as we probably should use on a lot of things. A lot of things that we put out and we try to put out are not consumer driven content. It's out there in the marketplace. And what we do is, obviously try to drive and use campaigns. And we did this not so much recently, but years ago, through hashtags and community, input and having them feel like they're part of it. In 2016, we ran a campaign called Realtree Life. And it was this whole thing of you live the Realtree life, you're part of it. And so we wanted people to, hashtags have kind of tapered down the use of them and the significance of them, but there was a time period where that was like king, right? And so definitely use that a lot more to drive and to accept and push content driven by consumers. But now a lot of the stuff that we do is kind of brand purpose focused. We have a network of pro staffers and content creators that we use, and we like them to use their own channels and platforms. Find that that's the best way to use it. Having us post it and reuse it almost kind of feels a little, I hate to use this word, but it almost feels a little dirty or undermines it a little bit, because then people think that it's not as authentic. When you have someone speaking about it and then the brand uses it, then they kind of feel like, oh, well, they're only saying that because the brand told them to. So you lose that authenticity that you want with user generated content. So really try to let that live in their space as organically as possible.
Well, hey, that makes sense. If there's an assumption that something is sponsored or somebody has a promotional deal with the company, then you sort of temper your response to it. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
All right, look down the road a year from today. What are some things you'd like to be celebrating personally and professionally?
Well, I mean, we have a lot going on. I mean, for us, the thing that I've always said, there's so much potential at Realtree. There's a lot more that we could be doing. There's a lot of doors that are open. We just got to be, brave enough sometimes to walk through that, and that's hard. You laugh about it being a company that's 40 years old and still saying that, but you kind of always have to reevaluate yourself and find these new avenues and venues that you can kind of push through and evolve with. Not change who you are from a core value standpoint, but you get what I'm saying. So for me, one of the areas again that I'm in charge of is product development and product growth. So seeing that really take life and become more of a focus in the company would obviously be one that I'd love to celebrate. This time next year, we'll be celebrating our 40th anniversary, and there's a lot of fun stuff coming with that from a company standpoint. So excited to see how that all plays out and what we're going to do, and really excited about that. So that's, for me, from a year from now, that would be the two that I really
Hey,
look forward to.
hey, but that kind of hunger and desire to grow is why 40 years later you guys are where you are, right? So you don't have to reinvent yourself every day, but the world's changing quickly, and you got to keep on making sure that you're a viable entity to more and more markets and people. So I applaud the approach.
Yeah. Well,
Hey,
appreciate it.
please tell us, what's your URL? Where can people find Realtree, and what social media outlets are you using these days?
Yeah, so we're on pretty much everything, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, TikTok. It should be just Realtree or Realtree Outdoors. If you search either one of those, blue check should pop up. And then for our URL, it's realtree.com, and you can go there. We have a very robust website that gives you, inside information on what's going on, not only in the industry, but around the nation when it comes to animal rights, conservation, hunting, a bunch of other things. And there's also our online store where you can shop and learn a little bit more about us.
I concur. Your website's impressive. When you're on it, it's hard to imagine that your company's only running 10% consumer driven business. Andrew Murray, continued success at Realtree. Thank you for spending some time with us on Business Ninjas. All the best to you and yours, and enjoy and congratulations celebrating 40 years of success.
Appreciate that very much, Andrew.